Welcome to today's mini tutorial. My name is Lossa. Today we're going to be working on a jump through with blocks to an L sit. So there is a lot of strength and technique required for this, but we're going to break down the components of it and then string it all together with different level options. Since this is a lot of weight bearing on the wrist, we're going to start with a wrist warm up. Let's interlock all 10 fingers and do some figure 8 type shapes. You can then do a bit of the wave. I always feel like I'm doing a 70s dance move when I'm doing this. And then come to all fours. Spread the fingers wide. Palms should be completely flat. I see so much of this in yoga class. I don't get it. I think some people feel more stable like this, but if you're doing this, bring everything down flat. Again, fingers are wide and then grip into the fingers so that there's a gap underneath the middle finger joint. From here, we shift forward and back, forward and back. 3, 2, 1. Turn your fingers side to side and same thing, side and back. Side. Keep going for 3, 2, 1. Turn one set of fingers towards you and the other set towards the top of the mat and peel the heel of the palm up off the mat. Thumb can lift, so it's just the fingertips of that hand with the fingers pointing towards you that stay in contact with the mat. One more. And then we turn the other fingers around. Peel everything up except the fingertips of the 4 fingers. Thumb can lift. One more of these. Turn those fingers back around. Bring the knees together to touch. Thumbs can lift up. We're doing our wrist push-ups here. Bring the weight a little bit back to make this a little bit lighter, but lifting the palm up off of the mat. So for this one, the knuckles do stay down in contact with the mat. Let's go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly release. Shake that out if you need to. The next major strength component of this jump through is a lot of chest strength. And this is another thing that I notice people miss. They don't push hard enough away to get the body to come through. You'll see when we go through the levels, sometimes you just don't have the strength and you have to pick up one hand and walk through like that. But in order to get to a point where you can walk through like this, you need to have that chest strength. So we're gonna do some Lossa lifts, and we'll do 2 or 3 rounds of this with different levels. So if level 1 is hard enough for you and that's all you can do, then you do 3 sets of that level 1. So bring your hands to either sides of the knees. Knees are together, feet are together underneath your hips. And what we're doing to start is pushing the ground away. And then staying on the tops of the feet, we're just lifting the knees as much as possible. So that might look like that. You might barely imperceptibly lift your knees off the ground. That's fine. As long as you're thinking about doming through the upper back and using strength to create distance between your chest and the mat. Let's do 2 more of these. And lower. Take a break. You should already feel that in your chest. So that's a lot of that strength that we're using for that jump through. For the next set, if you're progressing with me, we're just gonna lift up a little bit higher, straightening the legs. And then the third set, well, you'll see what we'll be doing for the third set. So let's go, sticking either with that first level or doing this variation with me. Very important, if you're doing this when we're still pushing the ground away, think about your mat being absolutely disgusting and you want to get as far away from it as possible. Let's do 2 more of these. 1. Everyone, take a little break. Let's replenish our strength before we do this third and final set. Deep breaths. Take some water if you need it. For this last round, we're going to do Lossa lifts. So 2 options. You can lift 1 foot at a time. That makes it a little bit easier. Or you can try lifting both feet. And we're also lifting the knees as well. So let's get set up, hands on either side. If you're still sticking with that first variation, then good job and keep with it. If you're trying this one with me, let's do 1 foot at a time to start. So lift the knees, lift 1 foot up, the other foot, 1 foot up, and then the other. And then if you want to try lifting everything up, lift the knees, lift the feet, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly come down. You're gonna feel that in the wrists. That's a lot of weight bearing. So do what you need to, let them kind of come back. And now we're gonna do a wrist recovery. Some wrist love, I like to call it. So interlock, we're making fists, and then you're kind of fitting your knuckles together like a puzzle piece. Bring the tops of the fists, tops of the hands to the mat. Bent elbows, and then straighten them as much as possible while keeping the fists as tight as possible. If you really loosen the fists, you can straighten the arms a lot, but then you're not getting as much of a stretch. So set your ego aside, keep a tight fist, and maybe your arms don't straighten as much. That's fine. And then I like to switch which knuckles on top. So you can just switch it whenever you want. You can see I just did a switch there and switch there. Do a couple rounds of this. This is really nice and relieving for the wrists when we're doing intense weight bearing like we just did. Next aspect we're gonna work on is the L-sit. This requires so much strength as well. So let's do 3 rounds, same thing. If level 1 is hard enough, then you stick with level 1 for all 3 rounds. Let's begin here. Bring the hands, tented fingers on either sides of the knees. And what we're doing is you're gonna have to use this entire front line of the body. So don't think this is just your legs. This is core, hip flexors, quads, everything. Nice pointed toes, let's make it pretty. And you're lifting one leg up and then the other. Same thing here. Lifting your leg up might look like that. It might barely lift up, but just do your best, lower down, slow and controlled, trying as you get stronger to lift your leg higher and higher. Let's go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. Take a little breather. Not uncommon for the quads to cramp up there. So if you need to, give them a little bit of a massage to help relax them. This is your opportunity. So that was level 1. Level 2 is going to be lifting both feet at the same time. So same setup, hands approximately on either side of the knees, fingers tented, and pointed toes, lift, lower. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And take a little breather. And relax the legs, whatever you want to do in between these sets, because these are very challenging moves. Level 3 is going to be a double leg lift as well, but instead of doing reps of it, we're going to lift and hold. Let's try to hold for 10 seconds. I'll see. I don't even know if I can do it. I haven't done a hold for a long time, but we're going to aim for 10 seconds, see how bad we seize and cramp up. And if you're doing one of the other variations, then just do as much as you can in the time that we're given. Set up the hands. Ready? Let's lift. Hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower. I hope you can see me shaking there. Like, that is not easy. So just realize that everyone is suffering along with you. Let's, as a little bit of a decompressor, come into downward facing dog, since our jump through does start with a downward facing dog. So get there, mosey your way to your downward facing dog. Downward facing dog does feel relaxing after doing challenging things like that. Pedal out the legs. And we're just gonna review our form for our downward facing dog, because again, a lot of what I see, and hamstring flexibility, that's fine. If your legs are bent in downward facing dog, that's okay. Your shoulders might also be really tight and you might be like this, but I feel most people, females especially, we're usually more open in the upper body. So what we need to learn to do is just pull our chest through, try to bring our head more between our arms. One way you can do that is come into a deep double knee bend. Try to bring your rib cage to your thighs and extend the arms. We're trying to get a nice straight line. So we're not like this. In order to get our rib cage to our thighs, we have to come into this shape, and then keeping the upper body just as it is. Straighten the legs. Again, might have tight hamstrings. You might only be able to straighten this much. And then with time, you might be able to straighten more. Think about lifting your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then it's just a nicer looking, better form, downward facing dog. From here, walk your hands back a little bit, because the starting portion of this jump through that we're working towards is a shortened downward facing dog. So if you're up on the toes, if your hamstrings are tight, it's okay if you look like this. We're just standing in a shortened downward facing dog. Arms are extended. You can see my hands are about the width of the mat, because that's where my hands are going to be placed on my blocks when we string all of this together. Let's look between the hands. The next kind of drill we're going to work on is just walking the feet towards the hands as far as you can go, and then walk them back. So if you can only walk them this close, then that's fine. And then maybe the next round you try to walk a little bit closer. But just come to wherever you can go. Maybe you can get your feet right in between the hands. And we're doing this without blocks, so that does make it harder as well. If you're feeling like it's really, really, really impossible and you want to get your feet closer, grab your blocks, because then you have more distance to walk your feet through. Like you can see, hopefully you can see and tell how much easier that is for me to walk my feet forward. Still trying to, as I'm walking forward, you can see you're almost coming into like a handstand setup. You're trying to keep the shoulders somewhat stacked over the wrists. That can get tiring on the shoulders, so take a break as you need to. I think that's all the drills I wanted to do, so we might as well start linking it together. When we link it together, I'm going to show you, again, what I've seen in yoga classes, what some people need to do to modify, to kind of fake it until you make it. Nothing wrong with that. Love faking it till you make it. All right, so the first fake it till you make it option is coming into our downward facing dog. If your knees are bent, if you look like this, that is fine. You're going to look between your hands, look where you want your feet to go. Push the ground away from you first. Get that engagement, so we're not loose and floppy into this. We're already engaged, pushing the ground away. Remember, think that the mat is gross and dirty and you want to get as far away from it as possible. Now, if you're really tight, you might fully have to pick up one hand, but if you're doing it, make sure you're pushing with this arm. Push, push, push. And maybe you're walking through using both hands to sit down. That's fine. If you do it that way, when you do your second set, just do it on the other side so that you can practice pushing through that side as well. And then just come to sit on your bum. And whatever variation of that L-sit, if you can't do an L-sit, maybe you're just doing leg lifts. Maybe your leg lifts look like this. And then if we want to try working our way back, I'll just do the reverse arm. So cross the ankles in this knees to chest seated position. Push, push, push through this hand. Walk the feet back. Come into this shortened downward facing dog position. Now, if you want to try something a little bit more challenging, what we're going to do, keeping both hands on the blocks, if you're able to do that, look between the hands. So we're shifting forward a little bit here and tiptoeing the feet in between the hands. Now cross the ankles once the feet are in between. Now here's where it's really important to push, 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 and then you kind of tiptoe on the knife edge of your feet to get your bum through. And maybe here you can do a double leg lift. And then coming back, just reverse that. Cross the ankles, push, 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 shimmy, tiptoe your way all the way back. Now, if you're looking to try a full variation where you jump through, I cheat for this because I don't have the strength to slow myself down on the jump through, but it might be hard to see with the block, so I'll just tell you what I'm doing in case you can't see it. So I shift forward a bit And now instead of tiptoeing, I'm jumping my feet to the middle. So I'm really pausing here. When I'm doing a little bit more streamlined, I'm just dragging my feet to slow me down. And then I'm pulling my feet through, coming into that L-sit. If L-sit is not accessible for you right now, then what you can do is pull yourself through and then come into that hold right there. To reverse that, I want you to try pushing through your hands to lift your bum first this time, and then see if you can get your feet crossed between your hands without the tiptoeing, and then do a little hop back. So let's do that a little bit quicker, and maybe you'll be able to hear or see how I drag my feet on the jump through. So come up on the toes, jump, slide, L-sit, pull it back, and all the way back to our downward facing dog. That's it. That's the tutorial for that. Strength doesn't happen overnight. It's something you have to work at. Make sure you work at your level, but don't be scared to try something that looks really hard. You might surprise yourself, but it could also be very humbling. You might think, oh, heck yeah, I could do that. And then you try it and it feels impossible. And that's where we just accept, okay, I'm not quite there yet. I'm going to work at the other level option. And then maybe in a couple of weeks, try the more challenging option again. I hope you got something out of this class. I hope it was helpful. If you did, I do ask that you like, comment, subscribe, or share, as it does help me immensely. And I thank you so much for spending this time with me. This is such a passion of mine, so I hope this was fun for you. Namaste.